Hello, friends, and welcome back to Inspired Heart Stories with yours truly, Kristine. As you know, I have a special superpower for helping others to find the words they really want to say and actually help them convey their heartfelt message through the lost art of the letter. In honor of Mother's Day, I thought I would recall and read a letter and give you the story around a dear lady, Marilyn, whom was married, had 2 children, a boy and a girl, and after nearly 20 years of marriage, out of the blue, her husband announces to her one day that he has decided to start a new life, move on, and wanted a divorce. There was no other woman, by the way. It was more like he was perhaps going through a midlife crisis of some sort, because Marilyn could not really name any particular issues that they struggled with during their marriage. She thought it was pretty typical, pretty normal marriage, and with the good and the bad, and the moving through challenges, and but basically fairly harmonious. But that was her perspective, of course. After he left, she really put herself on kind of a shelf. She froze. She was traumatized, and she lost all her self-esteem and sense of self-value or self-worth in many, many respects. In other words, she went to work. Eventually, she retired. She had a dull life. She only dated 2 men, and for 1 date each. So no relationships, didn't open her heart to anyone else. And her children, who were now grown, and over the course of the next following 16 years, became such a big part of her world that sometimes that wasn't the healthiest situation. In other words, she tended to be sort of intrusive and a bit domineering and manipulative. If she wasn't included at a family function, she would get her feelings hurt, like guilt trips. She expected her children to pay more attention to her, etc. And her grandchildren then were also a big part of her world. But you can imagine she may have been intruding on how they're being raised, putting her 2 cents in, whatever. So here's this somewhat miserable Marilyn who contacted me because her children, her grown kids, were really backing off and not so much wanting her in their world. She was a drag. She was a source of disruption, and as she described it to me, they thought of her as contentious. So whatever that means. All right, so when she asked me to help her compose her letter, to shift that relationship in a positive direction, I immediately let her know that the better way to approach this particular family schism was for me to help her compose a letter to her estranged husband, her former spouse. He did eventually meet someone and married some years after they separated. So she was a bit taken back because she held such resentment for him and blamed him on so many levels for her own sense of loneliness and unhappiness and despair. But I contended that wound needed to be addressed and healed so that the entire family could then celebrate times together. She would not perhaps be the excess baggage in the eyes of her children, and she could actually develop some self-love and respect. I mean, wouldn't it be great if all people that were divorced with kids, no matter what age, that the parents could come together for special occasions and celebrate as a family, regardless of the parents' marital status? I think that would be wonderful for the kids. You did have them together, you raised them, and you're an integral part of their lives as their parents. And we all want to be a positive support and a positive element to our children and our grandchildren's experiences. So I'm going to get right to it. Here is Marilyn's Unchain My Heart letter to her former husband, Martin. Dear Martin, perhaps it is the season nearing the end of another year, while the sun still shines and the leaves turn gold, that my awareness to the cycle and process of life is more profound. In the hopes of creating a long-awaited, healthy closure to an ancient wound, I request your support in my attempt to become more open and aware. I am quite certain you must be surprised to receive this letter from me. I hope you will do me the honor of reading through this inspired message. While you have moved on with apparent ease, even after all these years, it seems that I have stumbled along awkwardly, lacking the type of grace and stride that I had hoped for. I felt my world fall apart when our marriage suddenly ended so many years ago. I was devastated. I saw myself as abandoned, sabotaged, without really being given an opportunity to remedy or understand what went wrong between us. More simply put, I have struggled to recover from the absolute grief and loss of my identity as your wife, being part of an intact family and well connected to the children we created together. The fond memories of our past and the possibilities of the future. This alone has been my inner challenge. Please know that finally, while I have not only emotionally released you, Martin, certainly I do forgive you. More importantly, I now forgive myself. I understand that suppressing my feelings or resisting the emotional trauma of the past only causes more pain that is mirrored in my current relationships and other life experiences. I can no longer freeze my emotions or be numb to the anger I have felt. Instead, I'm choosing to reclaim my power. I'm now willing to open my heart to the sadness, to be more vulnerable instead of masking the hurt by being defensive, and to refrain from blaming others for my life circumstances. Reflecting on our relationship, I enjoyed the companionship you offered in those years together. I'm forever grateful for our beautiful children, Christopher and Gabrielle. In another context, I have a deep appreciation for the emotional challenge this chapter has been. As difficult as it seemed, I know I'm finally emerging, and I bless you for being a part of my life's path. You are no longer the rock in the road I once considered you to be. Rather, I now realize, in spite of everything, you are actually a true gift, an opportunity for me to see more clearly, to become less fearful, more intimate with my true feelings, and to be able to love so much more deeply. I hope you receive this letter in the best light possible. I am writing this from a much better place of trust, contentment, and personal strength. I still look forward to the many happy occasions of life, including those that involve our children. I believe that with parents who maintain a healthy, positive connection, although they are divorced, their children and even their grandchildren one day will benefit immensely. Wishing you only the best life has to offer, Marilyn. Well, I am happy to report that this letter just blew the lid off of Marilyn's anxiety and depression and sense of failure and despair. She immediately after she received this letter joined an online dating program and began seeing men, going out. She took ballroom dance classes. She even treated herself to a long-awaited vacation and went to New Zealand and Hawaii. And she started to live again. In Marilyn's words, she describes it as, I felt absolutely no anxiety or negative attachment to Martin. She ran into Martin, she knew he was going to be there, but her kids did invite both parents to a special occasion, family celebration. And so Marilyn went, of course, and there was her ex-husband. By the way, he did not overtly respond to the letter. He didn't call her, he didn't write a letter back, but she noticed a complete change in his demeanor. Even though they had barely spoken in the last 16 years after the separation, Marilyn said she just couldn't get over it. He treated her at that family function like she was a queen. He was very sweet, very gentle, very respectful. And I think he was relieved that they could all be together with their kids, their grandkids, and truly celebrate without the emotional baggage. So yes, this letter did set her free and unchained her heart. The lesson learned for Marilyn was she kept herself out of the loop in life. No one truly did anything to her that she did not allow. We all must honor our own divinity, our preciousness. And when life hands you a lemon, as they say, make lemonade. There are always new possibilities. And as I already mentioned, we learn the most through those rocks in the road, through those relationship challenges. It's moving past that with an open heart that truly claims yourself as worthy of having more happiness. No one else is living inside of you but you. And we create our own realities. Have a beautiful day.
You can buy me diamonds. You can send me flowers. You can tattoo my name or rap poetry for hours, but nothing can compare to what your soul